Hey guys, thanks for jumping in. I'll just give everyone a couple of seconds to jump into the Zoom. Just a heads up for today, I'm doing the good old work from home, which is always fun. So I won't have my camera on if anyone's wondering where I am, but it's Sophie here who runs I run the support here at Safe Food Pro. Perfect. And just so everyone's jumping in, I'm just going to chuck up a poll. Just going to launch that now. So you should be able to see a poll pop up. There's only 4 questions in it, and it'll be super helpful if you guys could just quickly answer those just while everyone gets sorted in the Zoom. You should be able to see that one pop up, and I'll end it in just a few minutes, just so then we see all the answers that come through. Easy. Thanks for doing that, guys. That's perfect. And also just give me a wave or a little message through the chat just to make sure you can hear me and I'm not just talking to myself right now. That would be really helpful. And also that you can see the big green mastering form building screen here as well. That'd be really good to know too. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Great. Cool. Hey, Rebecca. Great. I hope not too many of us are stuck working from home or having to stay home from work today. Oh, hey, Jolene. Thanks for joining. Perfect. We'll just leave it for a couple more seconds. That poll is up there for those of you who just joined. If you could just answer a couple of those questions, that would be super helpful for us. The reason we do these is just so we can pretty much just be able to chat to you guys a little bit more freely as opposed to just, I know I talk to most of you guys through emails most days throughout the week. So it's nice to probably, usually you can put a face to the name, but because the whole working from home situation, I might just put a voice to the name today. But yeah, so what we're going to do today is just go through mastering form building. For those of you guys who have come to a few of these webinars before, you may have even come to one of these ones before. We will go through quite similar things if you have seen them. So bear with me. We haven't actually done a mastering form building one for about 3 months or so with Christmas break and stuff too. So there might be a few new things in there that we'll cover anyway, so it will still be valuable for everyone. But basically what we're going to go through is I'm just going to jump straight into pretty much the admin console, and we're going to go through customizing one of our cleaning forms so you can see how that's done, as that's probably one of the biggest questions that gets thrown at us, as well as building a new form from scratch. If we've got time, I might try and just quickly show you a few options around using a quiz because we haven't actually gone over that before, but we'll just see how we go in this half an hour session today. And hopefully you guys learn something new. If you have got any questions, there's that chat there that I see a couple of you guys have popped some stuff into. But what would be really helpful is there's the Q&A option. If you pop some of your questions in there, if you've come with questions, pop them in now, or just pop them in as they come up throughout the webinar. I'll try and multitask. As you probably know, if you've been to these before, that's not really my strong suit. So I'll probably answer those questions at the end when we do a Q&A session. But if not, if I see them pop up and they're relevant to what I'm saying, I'll try and answer them as I go as well. So just let me know, add in as many questions because you may as well just ask while you're here. People won't see your questions pop up if you pop them in the Q&A. I'll just be able to answer them from my end. So just go for it. The more the merrier. So I'm just going to end that poll. Thanks to everyone who's gone and voted in there. That's super helpful. Pop that down, close that, and we'll just start to share my screen. So what you can see, I'm just going to skip across here. I'll just start with this slide here. So you should be able to see the basic tools slide right now. This is quite basic for those who have done this a few times before, just bear with me. But when it comes to form building, it's done in the admin console. So on your computer, login on the web browser. I wouldn't try and do it on your tablet or mobile web browser. It'll be a little bit too fiddly, I think. On the computer is definitely the best way to do it, or laptop. you log into Safe Food Pro through our website, and you use your admin or manager login if you've got one of those. If you don't and you're not an admin or manager today, have a chat to the admin or whoever's been set up as admin or manager and see if you can get a login if you are going to do the form building side, because you will need to have access to the admin console to do it. Once you get there, you'll go to forms, which I'll show you in just a second. But you'll see that there's these basic tools. So when you're building, you have a couple of options on what we call is really tools that you can use to build the form or to alter one of our already existing forms. You'll see here that there is the question tool. And so just so you know, while we build these forms, just so you've got a bit of relevance into what you can see, the question tool is the one that you'll use the most in the form. So that's what your staff will use in the app to actually answer the questions in the form. And that's how you get the information out. All of the other ones you can't really interact with. They're more there as just a view only thing and something for them just to read or get more information from. But the question one is where you can draw information out of your staff. So the question one and relevance in the form looks like this up here. Oops, change that. It looks like that one up there. You can see I've marked this one as required, which I'll show you how to do. And that means, as you can see down the bottom, that I have to answer that question in order to be able to save the form. Otherwise, you can only save it as a draft. The next one we've got here is the collapsible panel. So when we're building the form, if you click collapsible panel, it looks like this yellow one here. And what this is it's a reduced view of the text. So you can add a title, which is where I've put this as a collapsible panel. Where I've got here is the explanation text. You can add quite a bit of information there. So it's really good if you've got quite a lot of information to give. Maybe you've copied something out of the food control plan, or you have got some staff policies that you want to put in the form or something like that. You can add it in here, but it won't expand and take up the whole form. If they want to read all of the information that you see, they'll be able to click that little black arrow button. It'll open up the collapsible panel and show them all of the information you've provided. So it's just a nice way to add heaps of information without taking up the whole form. Section header is this one here, and it's the blue one here in the form. So when you are form building, the section headers show up with a little blue box. Same with collapsible panel, they show up with a little yellow box. But this is basically just like a title, or you can use it to separate sections in your form. And it's literally just a one-liner across here. Best just for short, sharp information in this one. For those of you guys who are keen form builders or have been to a few of these before, these are what you use for those repeating sections. So if you want to repeat a bulk of questions, you'll be able to use a section header and make that whole section allow multiple answers. For those of you who that might sound like a lot of random mumble jumble, just ignore it, but you can always flick me a message if you want a little bit more information on repeating sections, and I'll be able to help show you how to do those as well. Finally, there's just the instruction text. That's this little icon here, and it displays in this light gray box down the bottom. Basically what this is just a text box. So it just shows a box full of instructions that you can type it in there. Again, they can't interact with it. So that's a very quick overview into everything that you'll see. What I'm just going to do here is change my screen share, and I'm just going to jump straight into a Safe Food Pro account. Cool, so you should be able to see my Sophie's Cafe, and I'm currently on the forms page. So this is where you start with the form building. So first things first, what we're going to do is edit one of our forms that are already in the account. So what you can see here when you first go onto the page, if you're trying to search for a form, you can click up here and search for a form. So say we're looking for cleaning, all of the cleaning forms will come up in here. So that's just a nice little shortcut. You'll be able to see all of the forms with the SFP, the green icon on the side, are forms that we've given you as our default forms. And they're the forms we've given you based off the questions you answered when you went through that setup wizard. You'll then be able to see across here, you've got the scheduling of the forms. So if you want to look at all of the forms that are currently scheduled in your account, you can click the schedule button twice and it'll filter them up to the top. That's a quick way just to see what forms you've currently got set as daily forms or what ones are weekly. And you can then see the days that they're scheduled. If it doesn't show the days, it just means it's there for every day, and then the time that it's due on the app. The final thing I'll just let you guys know is there's this anytime button, and that's for those ad hoc forms. So the forms that you access through clicking the green plus button on the app, every form that has this gray tick will show up in that library of ad hoc forms there as well. June, the ID. Okay, cool. Good question. So the ID is actually the ID is just really for the number of the form when it was built. So that's how many forms have been built in SafeFood Pro. So don't actually worry too much about the ID. Sometimes it helps if you're trying to talk to us, like the support team, around what form you're referring to in the forms page. Other than that, you kind of don't really need to worry about the form ID too much, to be quite honest. So what we'll do to jump straight in here is we're going to edit our daily cleaning task form. So to edit a form, you click this pencil icon here on the side, and that opens the back end of the form. Perfect. From here, you can see we've got the form settings up the top. I can click on that to reduce it if I want to, or open it to expand it. Really what you need to do when it's a form that's a default form is basically ignore a lot of the form settings. So you can't edit the name up here because it's already preset. You can change the description, but that's purely for back-end purposes anyways, just for you to see from the form page what the form's about if you want to add more info maybe internally, but they can't see that from the app. Email recipients, this basically means that every time this form's completed, it'll get emailed to that specific email address. So if I add in my email, then I hit the enter button on my keyboard, it'll have that gray bubble around it. That means that that email has been entered in there. And once I save it, every time this form's completed, I'll get emailed a PDF version of this form. From there, you've got the schedule. So this is the main part that you'd probably want to hone in on when you're looking at your account. Maybe you guys are only open, Monday to Saturday. What you'll do is you'll want to look at all of your daily scheduled forms. So these ones here that are set as daily. You'll want to scroll down, look at the days of the week that they show up, and make sure that they only show up, say, Monday to Saturday. So you'd take off the Sunday. You can also do times of day. So say maybe you actually only you are near a restaurant that opens for dinner, for example. You'll change the time of day you want it to show at, let's say this first shift starts at 4 p.m. You'll click the plus button. So we've got 4 p.m. here. And then you can exit the 7 a.m. button there. So it only shows up at 4. The other example is if maybe you are a restaurant or a cafe or a store that's open, all hours of the day, but you have different shifts. You could have it show up at 6 a.m. to start the day, and then it will show up again at 4 p.m. as well. So that way you've got the 2 separate shifts completing that form, twice in the day or once each per shift. If you want the form to show up on the app, so what you've got here is the different schedule options. You've got the daily form, which means that it'll show up on the Today tab on the app, which I'll show you once we jump over to the mobile. But the daily forms show up on the Today tab, and it'll show up there every day that you've selected in the days of week. How it works is then you get one of those forms per time you've scheduled. So one person of your staff will be able to go in, fill in that form, and save it off. Weekly is once per week, so you'll have it show up in the This Week tab, and then monthly is once per month. It'll show up in the This Month tab. The only other scheduling option you can do is none, and what that means is it takes it off that main checklist that shows up when you open up the app, so it's not scheduled for daily, weekly, or monthly. But this little green toggle here means it's an ad hoc form. So it says this form can be accessed from the list of ad hoc forms. And that means you can access this form from that green plus button on the app that, again, I'll show you when we get to the app side. Final thing is if you turn this off and have this scheduled to none, that's how you can essentially turn off a form, which is our version of deleting it. So we don't allow you to delete the default forms, but you can turn them off in case you want to go back to them and use them again in the future. So if you want to turn it off, make sure the form schedule is set to none. The ad hoc forms is gray, so that means it won't show up in any of the daily or the monthly or the weekly tabs, and it also won't show up in the ad hoc list, which means it's turned off. Once you save it, it'll show a red triangle next to it, and that means that form will no longer be due to show up on any day or any ad hoc list. Awesome. There are also reminders as well that you can get to set to show up. And these can be set here by adding a reminder. You can just click on it to add in a reminder in here, and basically that'll pop up when the form is due to be completed. So you can go here and click create your own setting. You can give it a name if you want to reuse this type of reminder. So it could just be called like the 5-minute reminder, just to save time if you're going to add it to a couple of daily forms. This can only be added to daily forms, so it can't be added to weekly or monthly at the moment. You then select number of minutes. So I'm going to do 5 minutes, and that means that you'll get a pop-up notification 5 minutes before 6 a.m. or 5 minutes before 4 p.m. when that form's due to be completed. It'll pop up on the phones that are currently logged in to say FoodPro in your account. Awesome. So I'm just going to turn that one off because I don't need it for today. And form categories, just ignore those. Those are already saved for our default forms, so you don't need to do a thing with those ones. Cool. So let's get into the fun part of the form building, and this is under the form design section. So form design is up the top. Everything you then see under form design is what you'll see on the app. So that's what your staff will then be able to interact with. Based off that little bit of an intro that we looked at the start, you've got those symbols down the side, whether they're instruction text, that bases off this instruction text here. Collapsible panel, it's that yellow panel we were talking about, that's over here. The questions are those questions up there, and then section headers are over here, which aren't actually in this form. How we set up our cleaning forms is that we've got a collapsible panel, so I can click on it to open it, and that explains how you do the cleaning task. As we looked before, you can't interact with a collapsible panel. You can just click on it to view the information. We then follow up the collapsible panel with a question asking if that task, the scrub the bench tops, has been done. So that's how we've done it. That way verifiers can see in your form that you've explained to your staff how to do the cleaning task, so they know what's required of them, and then you can see if they've actually done it each time. So it's a really good way to lay out your cleaning forms. If you don't scrub your bench tops, for example, you can change the text. So you can highlight it, change it to how to sweep the floors. You can then go through and change the explanation text from, sweep the floors, get the broom from the cupboard and sweep into bin. That's obviously a very average example, but you get the point on how to change the text in there to suit you guys on what cleaning tasks you do. You'll then want to follow it up. So you'll see number question 3 is still referring to scrub the bench tops. So I'll change that text up here to sweep the floors. You can see I've got a prompt which will just say done. So that will show up on the app next to the tick box, and you'll see the answer type we've chosen is checkbox. So it'll just have a little check button to be able to tick just to complete it when it's done. That one's a really good one if you just want it to be a quick kind of checkbox task form, just really quick. They don't need to engage too much, just mark that it's done. That one's probably the quickest one to use. There are heaps of other answer types you can choose, whether it's multi-choice, add a photo of it, short text, numeric, heaps of things like that. I'll then click on it to close it. You can see this little green line appears on the one that you're currently working on. So if I click on that one and close it, you'll be able to see that that green line is where I'm working. If I scroll right down to the bottom, I'll click on number 15 out of 15. So then it knows that I am on the last question. I'm then going to add a new collapsible panel, so I can add a new cleaning task in here. And what happens is when you add a new one, it shows up below the one that you're currently on. So it'll show up at the bottom of the form. I'm going to do a new cleaning task on how to take out the bins. Or let's say maybe how to clean the bins. And then you'll add in the, oh, jeepers, the typing is not ideal. And then you'll add in the explanation on how to do that. So use hot soapy water. You can obviously add more detail in there. What you can then do is either add a new question here to add a new one below. You can hit the delete icon if you want to delete it. Or what you can also do is click on number 15 out of 16 and just duplicate that question if you want it to have the exact same format. So I'll click the copy button, the square button at the bottom. I'm just going to close them because it's easier to move them around when they're smaller. You'll see we've now got 2 of the same. I'm going to click on this number 16, drag it underneath number 17, and then just change the text. So now I can just go clean the bins. That way you've already got the checkbox there, you've got the prompt already there, so you save yourself just a little bit of time. Perfect. I can see a few questions are popping up. I'll just get to those at the end of the session today as well, just so you know. But keep them coming, it's good. From there, what we will do is, so that's adding a new task. What you can do, because cleaning schedules are a little bit different, you can go and change it based on the day. So say you want to have your Monday cleaning tasks are really different to your Tuesday cleaning tasks. A couple of options are to either change the daily schedule of this and just make this show up on a Monday and make all of the questions in this form only relevant to what they do on a Monday. Then you'd go back, make a new custom form, change it to Tuesday, make all of those cleaning tasks just relevant to Tuesday. That's one option. The other option you could do is if I turn all these back on, I could go down and just add, so these will be all of my tasks that the staff will be required to do every day. Then I can use this little conditional section here and add it to the bottom. What this does is it only reveals the questions underneath it based off if you tick the yes tick box that shows up on the app. That may sound a bit confusing, but it'll make sense when we look at it from the app side of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, is it Monday? How that's going to show on the app is it'll say, is it Monday? It'll look like a section header, so those blue ones, but it'll have a yes tick box next to it. By default, it won't show anything underneath it, but as soon as they click the yes tick box, it'll show what Monday tasks they need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new task underneath, and I'm just going to say, clean out the fridge. I'm going to say done. And then I'm going to change this to checkbox. So that way, when they tick, is it Monday, they'll be able to see that they need to clean out the fridge. If it's not Monday, they can just ignore it and save the form off without having to do that task. The only thing just to know around these conditional sections is that you can't have any of the other fields underneath it, such as instruction text, section header, collapsible panel. It won't hide those. It only hides questions. So if you want to tell the staff how to do that cleaning task, you'll need to add it in the question text here. So you need to say, use spray and wipe and get rid of food that's past used by date, for example. That way it's all in there and it'll all be hidden. We'll just add one more. So we'll just go, say we only do some extra tasks on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? We'll then add one more question, and this will just say clean floor mats. We can then change the question text for this one just to, let's say we'll do a yes or no, just to change it up. So that's how you do that. You can keep adding them in. If you've got multiple questions, you can go and add them in. So all of those cleaning tasks under Monday here would then disappear until they tick yes. Cool, so I'm just gonna save that one, and that's the cleaning task form done, which is good. The next thing we're going to do is look into building your own custom form. So try and remember what we did on that one. We're just going to quickly look into building a custom form just for the last couple of minutes of the webinar. So to build one from scratch, you're going to click this green plus button up here. This opens up that exact same template that you would have seen before, but it is completely blank. Now I'm just going to find a link that I can pop in here as an example. And that's just here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start right from the top, and we're going to look at this attribution field. So what this is it's pretty much just a bit of text that you can see at the top of the form. But what a lot of people do is they use it for like staff training. So what you can do is it pins whatever you write in the attribution to the top of the form on the app. So I'm going to say, watch this video before completing your training. I'm then going to pop a link in here that I got off YouTube. It's a good old little Gordon Ramsay video, probably not relevant to too much training, but it would be a good watch. From there, you can choose the statistic form group. This one, because I'm doing a staff training form for this, I'm going to put it under inductions. You don't have to do it, but what it does is it relates to those buckets that show up on the dashboard. So when one of these forms are completed, you'll get a tally added to the bucket that shows on the dashboard, which I'll show you once we've built this form. If you want the form to be a quiz, you can tick this button up here. What that means is when you add in questions, so I'll add one down below here, you only get 2 answer types, yes or no, or multi-choice, and it's actually just a quiz. So what you'll be able to do is have answers that questions that you know the answers to, and you'll be able to select the right answer. Then when staff go and do it on the app, they'll get a percentage score of whether they got all the answers correct, they got 75 correct, things like that. But I'm going to not do a quiz today. I'd say you only use quizzes really for staff training purposes, or the odd pop quiz you want to throw in there. Most forms will just be not a quiz, they'll just be a normal form. I'm then going to make this called staff training. Oops. Description, I'm just going to leave today. Email recipients we looked at before. I'm going to make the form schedule none because I don't want to schedule a training form, because once they've completed it once, they won't really need to do it again unless we want to do a review. But I'm just going to make sure it's an ad hoc form so they can access it at any time. I'm then going to select just one category and just make it training. And then now we can start the form design. So I'm going to add a question at the top. And I'm going to ask for the staff member's name. I'm then just going to take out the prompt for this one because I don't need it. That's just optional. And the answer type here is going to be staff list. And so what that means is it brings a list of all of your staff and users that you've added in your account. I'm also going to make this question required, so they have to answer it in order to complete the form. I'm then going to ask them to read the food control plan or what resource you were trained in. And I'm going to add in the food control plan here so they'll see, you'll be able to open up the food control plan in this form that I'm about to attach. They'll be able to read over the relevant section and then we're going to be able to train them in it. So what section, what resource have you been trained in? This is obviously an example form, but I just want to try and use a form that uses as many different answer types as possible so we can have a look at them from the app side. So I'm going to use the answer type selected resource, and I'm then going to use the resource. So this will open up a list of all of the resources in the account, and I'm then going to add in the resource that is the template food control plan, and that brings in just the New Zealand Simply Safe and Suitable template food control plan. From there, I'm going to add another question and just say, have you read and, or let's just actually ask, what section have you been trained in? They'll be able to just do a short text. You can then go in and add some more information if you want to. So you could add a collapsible panel in here and go read this before continuing. You could then add training information in here around a specific process that you guys run in your kitchen or in your restaurant or cafe. So you could just put staff policy or process in here. I'm not going to write one out because I don't have one for my fake cafe. And from there you can then go, have you read and understood the staff, change that one, the staff policy. That could literally just be a tick box. What you could even do is you could add a final question and go sign to confirm you've read and understood the training today. You could then add another answer type and make this one a good old signature capture so they can actually sign it off from there. So that's a very basic example of a form. You could go and utilize these a little bit more, but I don't want to go too far in depth today in case it's overwhelming. But that's basically a really basic example how to quickly just build up a form. So I'll click save here. What I'm then going to do is hopefully be able to share my phone if the internet is on our side today. Let's just see that we've got this one. Here we are. Perfect. I'm just going to close that. Just give me a little wave in the chat just to make sure you can see that phone that's popped up. But I'm just going to get straight into it just before. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Just to finish off today, I'll show you how it looks from the phone end for your staff now to be able to see that form. So first things first is looking at those daily cleaning tasks. We can click on it up here. Let's just make sure we've got the updated version. Yes, we do. Perfect. So you'll see here there's that instruction text that was already there at the start. There's these collapsible panels that I can click on, and I can click OK. You can go through and tick done to answer each of those tick box questions. There's a few in there. You'll see that's our how to sweep the floors question. We've then got how to clean the bins. Again, I can click on it. If you had quite a bit of information, it will show up in there. I can tick done once I've done those. And then you've got these ones at the bottom. So if it's not Monday, which, you know, it isn't today, what I would do if I was going through what you'd actually do on the day is I just click save final, ignore those two at the bottom, and the form will look like it's just saved as normal. In the report, it'll say, is it Monday? If you don't tick the yes by default, it will just say no. So you don't have to worry that these will look like unanswered questions or anything like that. It'll just display as no by default. Let's say it is Monday for today's example. I'll tick yes. So you'll see right now that question is hidden. I'll tick yes, and now that question is revealed. You can see clean out the fridge. It shows me how to do it, and I'm going to say I've done that today. It's obviously not Wednesday and Monday at the same time, so I'm just going to click save final. I'll select my name from the list of staff, and I'll sign off that form to say that I've done that cleaning task today. Perfect. Final thing I'll show you guys today is just this green plus button. So what we were looking at earlier is those are all of our daily checks, just a quick little insight. These are all of the forms that are scheduled for weekly, and these are all the forms that are scheduled for monthly. This green plus button here is what that green little toggle refers to, so the green plus button, and these are all of those ad hoc forms. So I'm going to scroll down. So we put it in the training section when we selected those meta tags, those tick boxes. And we've got that staff training form that we just made here. I can always star it if I want it to be a favorite form. I'll then click on the form. You'll see this is the attribution that we added at the top that said, watch this training video before, watch this video before completing your training. The staff will then be able to click on that link here, and that'll open up that good old Gordon Ramsay video. From here, you'll see this was a required question that we selected. So I'll select whoever we're training, let's say Sammy Support. That link then shows up by clicking that green little view icon. That's the resource that we attached. You can click on that to open it. That'll open up. So this is just the template food control plan. Say they then went down and trained themselves in a specific section, and I'll go and click the little Safe Food Pro button at the top to go back to it. And you can see we've now viewed it because it's gone green. What section have you been trained in? Let's just say I've got making and cooking. They can even add a photo to it if they want to with that little photo icon, or they can add an additional blue note or action to that one and tick the tick. Finally, they've got the little collapsible panel again. If you had that staff policy, have you read and understood the staff policy? See that answer question, that was the prompt that was in the form. And then finally, you can go sign to confirm you've read it. I'll put my nice little signature in there, and that's the form completed. So that's a form that we just built from scratch. It really didn't take too long. You may find the first couple of times you try and make the forms, it might take a little bit longer, but the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it. What I do really recommend is just to have a look at it from the app side before releasing it off to your staff. So you would really want to try and make sure that the form is right. And it's really hard to know that until you have gone and had to play around with it yourself on the app, maybe filled it in under your own staff member, it will save that form to your account. So just keep that in mind. You can always add a blue note to the top of it, just so then your staff, just so then you know that it was just a test form or just a play around form. But that way you'll be able to be really comfortable that your staff, it's really, easy to understand for your staff. Cool. So that was a very good quick insight into form building. There is so much that you guys can do with it. So if you do have questions, pop them in the Q&A section. I'll be able to go through those questions now. We will try with the more form building webinars we do, we'll try and get, a few different ways to build forms in there as well. Like today we use a few different answer types and things like that. But if you do have specific questions, just flick me an email through that help button in your admin console. We've also going to send out this webinar recording if something may have gone a little bit too quickly. We do try and keep it to half an hour, so there is a bit of a time crunch on there, but that way you can go back and watch it at any time or pass it on to someone who may be doing the form building for you anyways. Okay, I'm just going to quickly read these questions, so just bear with me. Oh, great question. Thanks, Alyssa. The question is, are we better to create a form or edit yours? Can you explain the ad hoc form, where to find it? So I hope explaining that part from the app showed you where to find that ad hoc form. Just while I've got you guys, those ad hoc forms are really, really important. So those green plus button ones, if those ones, just try and make sure your staff don't forget them, because that's where you do find those staff training forms, the troubleshooting forms, staff sickness, receiving a delivery. So if your staff aren't looking at that ad hoc button, they may be missing a core bit of their food safety forms that they're not doing. So just so you know, make sure they are going in and filling in those forms. But to answer your question, are we better to create a form or edit yours? If you can edit ours, that's the best practice. We find that's the best way to do it, because what that means is they will show up in your summary report when it comes to verification time. So on verification day, you can use a summary report or a verification report, which we go over in our verification webinar, but I can always send you information on if you'd like that. But if it's a custom form, we don't know what's going to be in it, so we can't put that in our summary report. You can still get that report out really, really easily from the form reports page, but it's just an extra step. So you just need to be aware that if you are making your own forms, you have to use more form reports to be able to get that data out, whereas it won't show up in that summary report. So if you can customize ours, that's the best practice. But if you can't, make a custom form and just know where to find it when it comes to reporting time. Cool, next question. We currently have an alert sent from if a box is ticked, which means the trap needs attention. Is it possible to have this one panel alerted? What you can do, so this question says, if a certain, is it possible to have this, so one panel that is alerted is sent to email only if the traps need attention, not every time the form is filled? What you can use is we have a answer type called yes, no plus reason, or no, yes plus reason. I'll see if I can share my screen back to the admin console. There we are. So from an answer type point of view, there's this one here that is called yes, no reason, or no, yes plus reason. These ones here. And what they mean is the reason is a blue note. So if they answer no, so say for your example, it could be, is the trap okay, or something like that. If the answer is no, what it'll do is it'll prompt the staff to add in a blue note, or it'll more actually force them to add it in to be able to save that question. They'll then have to explain what's happened, or what they've found, or what they need to do from here. What you can then do is we can set up a user notification. So on staff and users, you can have your user set up. So if I click the pencil button next to my name and scroll down, you can have it so that you get an email or an in-app push notification when Blue Notes are added. So that means when that reason's added, you'll get an email notifying you. And that way you'll be able to stay on top of it and stay in the loop. So using that answer type is the best way to do it. If you don't want to use that answer type, the other option there is to get your staff just to add a standard Blue Note when something like that has happened. And then you'll be able to get notified when that's happened as well. Cool. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if it doesn't, and I'll be able to help. Always just flick me an email or another chat if you want me to explain it further as well. Cool. Jolene, if you typed a note from that yellow bar with 3 dots, who gets notifications on these? Can you make it so only specific folk receive these notes? Right. So Jolene's talking about those follow-up actions, I'm pretty sure. So let's see if I can share my phone back. These phone sharing can be quite temperamental. So, oh no, we're good. Cool. So you should, I'll just unpause that. You should be able to see my phone screen here. I'll just go back to, I think this form should have it in here. If I answer yes. So see how we've now got these 3 little dots in the yellow box. If I click the yes one and I click this little yellow box here, you can either add a note or an action. So the note is what we were just talking about before as those blue notes. So if I fill that in, whoever's got that user notification set up is able to get a notification from that one or an email. If I click the action, what you can then do is add a follow-up action. So this is a task that you'd like to happen based off what's in this question. So what you could do is, for example, say an incident happened, they'll add a blue note explaining what the observation was of the incident. You can then add a follow-up action to maybe say, training is needed as a result of the incident. Please complete this form to avoid this happening again, for example. You can then attach an ad hoc form. I could find that staff training form that we just built. You can then assign it to someone. When you then select it, that person will get a notification and will get a task to complete that form. I'm just going to save that as a draft. So you'll see that little push notification pop up at the top. It might show up here. So it'll then show one new message for me because I assigned it to myself. When I click the message icon, I'll see that it asks me training is needed to be completed as a result. I can then click on it and open up that staff training form straight away and fill in that form from there. Just so you know, this only works well, as in the messages will only go to one specific person if you're all set up as users. If you're set up as staff members in the account, then it will go to everyone because it doesn't have just one device to know to go to, if that makes sense. So it needs to go to someone who has set up a user. Otherwise, it will still show their name, but everyone will get a notification. Cool. Jolene, if you have more questions around that, just let me know. I'll be able to help further. The speech bubble on top. The best way to use this is that, I think that might be the message icon up here as well. This one is just used for messaging. You can do it from the admin console side. So you're able to send messages to staff members. And again, kind of like that follow-up action, you can attach forms or resources to it. From the app side here, this is also just like your message inbox, and you can also add a message. But if you send a message from the mobile, it goes to everyone that's in your account, just so you know that side as well. We've got an anonymous message asks, any way to delete a form if you've filled it out as a trial but don't want to keep it? At the moment, no. We were advised for traceability reasons not to add this as a feature. We are always reviewing feature feedback, so I will add it in there just to say that we've got a bit of feedback on it. But at the moment, you can't delete any completed forms. Best practice would just be you can either go back and edit the questions in there or the answers from the saved forms page, or you can add a blue note to it and just say, this is a practice form, or just playing around on the app, ignore this form, or things like that. Final question is, do we have any training quizzes which are mandatory for audits, like default cleaning forms? A lot of the forms we pop in your account are kind of based off your food control plan. Best thing to do is to check what your food control plan requires, but a lot of the forms, you've got those temperature checks in here, daily cleaning tasks and things like that. It depends what you're referring to. If you're referring to staff training, some forms that are really good to do it in that ad hoc button. And we've got a couple of training forms down here in the training section. So induction training is a really good one to start with. That takes you through the real basics of staff training around like washing your hands, keeping surfaces clean, things like that. The other one that's really good to follow that one up with is the specific training of business procedure or method. And what this does is it just allows you, kind of like the form we just set up before, but it allows you to select different sections in your food control plan, train staff in them, and then sign off that they've been trained. You can also use this form, say you've got a new menu update or a new staff policy. You can upload that policy as a resource. They'll then be able to select that resource and explain how they were trained in that new procedure. So that one's a really good one to do. All right, looks like we've got a couple more that have popped up. Can we make maintenance form pop up according to schedule based on equipment type? For the maintenance schedule, you can get a reminder. That's a user setting. So if you want staff to be reminded when maintenance is due, I think the reminder comes 15 days before the date is due from memory, and the staff will get a reminder for that. What you can't do is you can't pick one specific piece of equipment and try and link it to one staff member. If you turn that notification on, all that staff member who has that notification settings turned on will then get notified for each piece of equipment that's due for maintenance. And again, that is a user only setting. So where we went to set up those Blue Note settings before, that is where you can set up the maintenance ones. But again, only for users, and it's for all pieces of equipment. So you can't just have it just for one piece of equipment. Awesome. Last question from Anna, and that is how to edit saved forms. I think that's what we're asking. If we click from the app point of view, you can go through and edit any forms you've saved. So if they're daily forms, you can just click back on it and go through and change those answers if you want to. The other way to do it is to click the menu icon in the top left corner, so the 3 lines, go down to saved forms, change the date range. You can see up to 30 days of forms on the app, and then you can go and see all the forms that have been completed. You can then click on it again, go through, change those answers in the form to what you may have intended it to be, or fix the typos or anything like that. Awesome. That was a great little Q&A session there. If anyone has further questions, please don't hesitate to email me at support@safefoodpro.co.nz. There is a little survey that you'll see at the end of this. It's literally 4 questions long, and the more info we get back, the more we'll be able to help you guys with these webinars and more resources just to make sure you're really comfortable with using Safe Food Pro. We're very, very happy to help you and love hearing feedback from you guys. So if there's anything you think we can change or might make things a little bit easier for you guys, just let us know and we're happy to chat about it. We've also got a Facebook user group. We do these webinars monthly, and we've also got some blogs that you guys are able to read around things that are happening in the industry. So flick us a message if you want more information. But thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a really good webinar. Hope you learned a little bit more. Again, we'll send this off tomorrow, and you'll be able to rewatch the webinar from there if you need to as well. But that is all for today. Again, email me if you've got questions. If not, have a great rest of the day, and I'm sure I will be in touch with all of you guys soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.